Right, so we gotta talk about this. So if you go to X or Twitter and go to the UFO Joe, he makes an excellent point about something. So I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I'll start maybe about halfway down, but this is referring to the newest weaponized podcast episode, and they had 3 Congress people on there. They had Luna, they had Burchett, and they had Burlison. Luna wasn't on there for too long. She had to go. Seems like she's always got to go. But then they had the other 2 on there for a bit longer. But it's something that Burleson said that's ruffling a lot of feathers. Now, you can read this whole post by UFO Joe. I'm just going to start where I thought he made a really, really good point. So let's go right here. It's in the middle of the screen. It says he should, this is referring to Lacatski and whether or not he would testify and that whole thing. First of all, I just want to say I'm a little bit confused because when Lacatski was on last time on Weaponized, he was just on recently, I think it was for a 2-parter, he said that nobody contacted him, and then, like from Congress, and then in this episode they kind of touched on that, but I was really confused. I didn't leave understanding the full truth of that, so I don't really know. But let me read this middle part right here, very important. He should have been the priority as far as witnesses for the hearing. With Lacatski, you have a respected rocket scientist, physicist, and intelligence analyst who has confirmed that this passage from the initial revelations is accurate. And then it says, at the conclusion of the 2011 meeting in the Capitol building with a U.S. Senator and agency under Secretary Lacatski, the only one of this book's authors present, posed a question. He stated that the United States was in possession of a craft of unknown origin and had successfully gained access to its interior. This craft had a streamlined configuration suitable for aerodynamic flight, but no intakes, exhaust wings, or control surfaces. In fact, it appeared not to have an engine, fuel tanks, or fuel. Lacatski asked, what was the purpose of this craft? Was it a life support craft used only for atmospheric re-entry, or what? If it was a spacecraft, then how did it operate? And Lacatski may have seen the craft with his own eyes and entered it. But Burleson, or anybody else on the task force, didn't see it as a priority to bring him in under oath and have him repeat what is said in that book and other important claims from the other 2 books, and his interviews with Knapp and Corbell. I'm shaking my head as I type this. You know what percentage of the world has read those books and or watched the limited interviews Lacatski has given? Maybe point lots of zeros 1% of the population. You had, and still do, a chance to get that man under oath, and it wasn't a priority. I don't know what WTAF means. Probably something bad. He's getting older, and we don't know how much longer he will be around. If, as Rep. Ogles told Matt Lazel, another hearing is coming in January, Lacatski, if he agrees, must be part of that. You can ask him about the craft, the alleged paranormal connection, and people getting sick and injured if they get too close to a UAP. And he can be asked about the hitchhiker effect and claims of contagion. So I just want to stop there real quick. So yeah, there's been a couple of different sources saying that there is going to be another hearing, probably coming in January. I think there's this Rep. Ogles person, I don't really know. That's not a high name, a well-known name in this space. So much so that not even I forgot who that is, to be honest with you. Like a lot of people don't know Glenn Grothman. He's my representative, and he was the head, the one that began and was the first chair of that 2023 hearing, but so many people don't know his name. But anyway, yeah, I guess I watched it or listened to the video. He did say that there was going to be a hearing maybe at the end of this month, but they couldn't make it work out, so maybe January. But what's weird is that he's the only one really saying that. I know Burchett said that too, and that's the second source. I said 2 sources, but Burchett was kind of like, yeah, I might get some more hearings next year, but how much more can we beat a dead horse? He didn't say that exact word, but that's kind of how it seemed like he was trying to say. But yeah, there's always conflicting information when it comes to these congressmen about when the hearing is going to be, what we're going to get out of the hearings. Like Luna was talking about earlier this year about another hearing this year. with the people involved in the nuclear stuff, like in the 1960s and probably other things too, but nobody's talked about that since. And I don't know, it's like you would think that Burlison, because I can't remember, did they ask him about another hearing? I think he was like also saying the diminishing returns thing, which might have been what Burchett was saying as well, but whoever said it, like you would think that they would know more than anybody else if there's going to be a possible another hearing next month even. So I don't know. There's always confusion with that. Anyway, let's read on. So it doesn't matter if he won't add anything new or different than what's in his books or interviews. Put him under oath for the world to see and hear, and hopefully the mainstream media picks up the story. And they probably would. And this is like an example of what a headline could be. Rocket scientist. The United States government has an otherworldly craft in its possession and have breached the hull. And I think that's what Lacatski said in a Weaponized podcast. Was it maybe a year or 2 years ago, whatever? It was the one before the one that they did just recently. But he doubled down on that recently, too, if you listen to those episodes. Like, why would you... This is the part that, like, really should drive home the point to Burlison, if this was spoken to him. I wish they talked about this with him yesterday. But why would you not want this? And the really excellent point that he goes on to make, I'll still read it, is that David Grush, he gave an interview excuse me, to News Nation before his time in the spotlight under oath at that congressional hearing in 2023 with my rep Glenn Grothman at the helm. We didn't learn anything new, not really. I mean, he didn't really provide much else, more than what he said. So that was a huge hearing, and that made a lot of headlines. Why would you not want a repeat of something like that? And this is like really huge. I mean, this Lacatski kind of implies that he was like there, maybe. I mean, he knows at least enough information to be able to say that we have a craft, we have gotten inside, and he said whatever else he said during those interviews. That's huge. So I would propose that you would have him at a hearing. I mean, who cares if Burlison's like, oh, we're not going to learn anything new from him. So what? Is this not important? I mean, you might get some new stuff, but would you not want to have this under oath, public? Would you not want those headlines? That's huge. So what I would recommend is have him, have Jay Stratton, and Christopher Mellon. Like, why not have those three? They all have huge pieces of this puzzle. Put them all in one hearing. That'll be powerful, I think. And really ask good questions. Sometimes I kind of wonder, like, why are they asking this question or that question? But ask really pointed questions. Really get to the bottom of this. Like, try harder. Anyway, I'll just read on. Anyway, he says, and maybe if he's in a disclosure mood, he'll offer up some surprises like he did in his last interview on Weaponized when he said that we have made progress on back engineering these craft, but it hasn't been achieved to its full extent. That's a massive claim. Push him to offer up more. And if his answers to many questions are, it's all in my book, make him read from his book so that the world can be informed about his claims and what he has allegedly discovered in ALSAP. David Grush didn't say much more than what he said in his interview with Ross Coulthart and article in the debrief. But was there ever any thought that he shouldn't have been put under oath and brought in as a witness for that congressional hearing? Of course not. And that's a huge point. Like, that is such a great point. Someone needs to get a hold of Burlison and like say that to him. I would love to hear his response. And by the way, he did seem kind of nervous. I don't know why. Like, after I'm going to play the clip in a little bit. It's maybe 3 minutes or so. You can see it right here peeking through. I don't know. He just seemed kind of nervous about it. Now, I have respect still for him and Burchett and Luna and stuff, but I don't know. I'm starting to see the cracks here and there, and a lot of things don't mesh together. Like, everyone's got a different story and timeline and different things. I don't know. Something just doesn't quite add up. Anyway, Burleson. But to your point, I think getting him in the skiff and seeing if there's maybe any additional room for him to talk, it might be worthwhile to do that. And after I heard that, I'm like, well, you're kind of like, oh, yeah, that is a good idea. Like, why didn't you think of that before? Anyway, and then Knapp says, I think he might. I mean, the last conversation that we've had, it seems like he's edging closer to the idea that under the right circumstances, he would be willing to share information with Congress, which would be great. Again, I'm all for putting him the skiff too in the skiff. I think he meant to say. Yeah, I'm gonna play this clip, and let me just think. Is there any last thing I want to say? Maybe I'll stop it here and there to provide some more of my opinion, but I don't know. We'll see.
That you can, find out. Dr. James Lacatski came on our show. He ran the UFO program for the Defense Intelligence Agency, and he admitted on our show that they breached the hull of a UFO in government possession.
You reported James Lacatski came to you with government possession of NHI craft and how they ultimately gained entry. Can you testify to the veracity of that claim?
Dr. Lacatski is an honorable man who served most of his career with the DIA, a very trusted, high-level rocket scientist and intelligence analyst who inspired the OSAP program, as I said earlier. He said this craft, we had managed to get inside of it. It had no wings, no rotor, no tail. It had no fuel tanks. They didn't know how it flew or how it was operated. It clearly looked like it was aerodynamic, but he would not go further. He's a by-the-book guy, and until he gets clearance to say more about that, I don't think we're going to hear much more. But it's not ours. It wasn't ours. We didn't make it. We didn't know who made it and how it was built and how it operated. We've got at least one, and I don't know. I think that's enough confirmation that we do have recovered discs and material.
So, and you put that in congressional record. Do you have a way that you can, find out where is it? He can't tell us, but maybe he can tell you, where is that craft? Can you go hunt it down? Can you go see it?
That's an interesting question. When it came to Lacatski, and I watched his interview that he did with you guys, and here's what my response to him is, because he was frustrated that we hadn't reached out to him, but he also admitted that, which is what I was told, and the reason why we haven't reached out to him is that he's not going to tell us anything that's not in his books.
Well, hold on. You did reach out to him. There have been 3 hearings. I reached out to them on behalf of Congress officially.
That's right.
Twice to say, and I had congressional members talk with him the hearing before the last one. He just forgot. But the point is that maybe with you guys in the correct environment, with the right clearances, he can tell you where it is, and you can just put this to bed and go find it.
Yeah, and I remember that. I remember that he was one of the people that we had tasked you to go to reach out to. And for those people that are kind of asking, how did that relationship work? Look, we don't have all the contact information for all these people. Why repeat the work that you two have done in building these contacts in your networks? And so you basically patriotically dedicated your time for free helping us make contact and kind of coordinate some of those witnesses. And I had been told Lacatski is probably not going to reveal anything that that he hasn't already revealed. Everybody, when I talked to people, it seemed like it wasn't going to be new information, and therefore to me, it wasn't as high of a priority. But to your point, I think getting him in a skiff and seeing if there's maybe any additional room for him to talk, it might be worthwhile to do that.
I think he might. I mean, the last conversations that we've had, it seems like he's edging closer to the idea that under the right circumstances, he would be willing to share information with Congress, which would be great.
Dr. James Lacatski.
Right, so that's that. Now, just want to say one last thing, I think. Stephen Diener on the UAP podcast, Unidentified Alien podcast, he did mention recently how he's going to be having Tim Burchett on, and he was hoping to do it this month, but it kind of fell apart, but he's hoping to do it maybe in January, it sounds like. So I'm going to try to reach out to him. He's pretty good at getting back to you. Like, he's never not gotten back to me before, and sometimes it might take him a little while, but I'm going to kind of bring this up with him in short. I'll try to keep it short. And, ask, maybe he can push for Tim Burchett to say something or to get a response on this matter, maybe. I mean, I know it's more of an Eric Burlison thing, although he has had Eric Burlison on several times before, so maybe I'll mention, if you get Eric on, then maybe mention this to him. But if you get Tim on, maybe you can ask him too. Why would you not want to have a Lacatski to make these claims? And wouldn't that help the whole thing? Because you're having him under oath say these things to the American public, which most of the American public has no idea who he even is, really. But to say that on TV, that would be pretty huge, right? Would it not? And, it gets more pressure on other people in government to put more pressure, maybe even on the president himself. I mean, that's what you want. That's part of this whole disclosure process. You want the public to be informed so that those who are elected into power can be, representing them, hopefully, you would think, anyway. So I don't see any loss for that. Yeah, again, there's probably a lot more information here. But, yeah, just check it out. UFO Joe on X. He puts a lot of good stuff out there. So, I don't think there's anything else, but please let me know your thoughts